to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the August 25th, 2011 meeting of the Radnor Environmental Advisory Council. We begin our agenda with review and approval of the meeting minutes, but unfortunately the minutes and the meeting packet did not get circulated yet. I talked to Melissa earlier today. I have to apologize to everyone. The minutes did not get submitted to her until just a day or so ago, so we're a little late on that. So what I propose is that we defer addressing minutes from last month's meeting, the July meeting, and then we just take it up at our next meeting. Okay? All right. And Anne, thanks again for preparing the minutes. We appreciate it.
But not last month.
Not last month. No, that was not Anne. She always does them very timely, gets them right in. But Steve did it, but appreciate his effort, and it's always good to have somebody willing to jump in when Anne is out. Okay, next item are announcements, and I have a few announcements. The first one, hi Skip. First one is the Delaware Valley Green Building Council Annual Green Building Celebration and Leadership Award Ceremony, which I've been announcing for a few meetings now, but this will probably be the last one because the event will be on September 22nd at the Waterworks Restaurant in Philadelphia from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. Again, September 22nd, the Delaware Valley Green Building Council, it's actually their 10th anniversary, their Green Building Celebration and Leadership Award Ceremony. So I'd encourage folks to attend that. It's usually a fabulous event. I think they expect about 400 people. There'll be lots of Pennsylvania senators, representatives, as well as lots of folks from the green building community. Wanted next to announce some upcoming Delaware County household hazardous waste events. The next two events, which I believe are going to be it for the year, will be held Thursday, September 15th and Saturday, October 15th. The September 15th event will be held at Rose Tree Park in Media, and October 15th event will be held in Upper Chichester Township. Now, these events, at these events, they'll accept household hazardous waste, so it'll include flammables, toxics, batteries, pesticides, but they're also taking computers, printers, scanners, fax machines, and portable TVs that are 27 inches or less. So to the extent that folks have been cleaning out over the summer, now would be a good time to drop those off. Okay. One more. This I actually picked up at our last sustainability series, which is a fall schedule for programming of the Pennsylvania Resources Council. They have several events lined up for this fall. They've got some backyard composting workshops coming up September 28th, October 20th, and November 14th. Also, they've got some worm composting workshops, so if you're interested in doing that, that would be September 8th, October 3rd, November 2nd. And then finally, a program on tips for a healthier home, which will be held on September 22nd. A lot of things going on in September. If you want more information about these events, you can go to their website at www.prc.org. Does anyone else have announcements they want to make? No? Okay.
Yeah, Brenda, I want to mention one thing, and I will, it's not really an announcement, but at the sustainability series last month, one of the presenters talked about getting home energy audits at a reduced cost.
Right.
And I'm woefully unprepared to talk about this, but I took advantage of it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I went ahead and did it.
Okay, and?
Well, I haven't got my final report yet. I expect that this week. But I was extremely pleased with how much effort the company, both the organizational part of it, like in getting selecting the right contractor to come out and paying the bill and all that stuff, and the actual person who came out to the audit.
You want to walk us through a little bit of what they did when they were at your house?
Yeah, sure. I don't have any combustion sources in my house, but a combustion test on, say, natural gas-fired hot water heater or maybe your furnace would be a standard part of the test, as is what's called a blower door test. And a blower door test is a test where you try to identify the where air is infiltrating your home, where your big air leaks are. And it also assesses kind of how tight your home is, gives you a quantifiable measure, so that when you go ahead and try to improve the leakiness of your house, you can then come back, do a blower door test again, and quantify what percentage improvement you have.
Okay.
So I got my baseline. And funny story is it was off the charts bad. Couldn't figure we couldn't even get the device to work right. It was so bad. And I said,
You're living outside. You're in a treehouse or something, right?
Why don't I go try to just shut the third floor door? The third floor is really leaky up there. I knew it was, and so I went upstairs. I had to actually use two hands to get the third floor door closed. And as soon as I did that, it dropped back into reasonable old house measurements. But and then they do an appliance inventory to find out the age and potential efficiency of, say, your dishwasher and your refrigerator and all that. And he does a thorough measurement of the house, measurement of all your windows and doors, orientation of the house, all these kind of things. I'm sure I'm leaving something out. He inputs into a computer program that's approved by the state to help him in his recommendations for future improvements, and
Great.
as well as your utility bills.
Okay.
Get entered in there, 13 months of utility bills. So.
And then they issue a report with some recommendations?
Correct, yeah. The report will have recommendations and estimated annual savings and payback period, estimated cost. If I decide to go ahead and pursue some of the recommendations, I will get another $50 back on my home energy audit, which already was only $150 to me. For a slightly smaller house, it would have only been $100 because I don't have any combustion tests. So another $50 off of that.
Great.
So it's extremely, extremely cheap. You cannot find these in the open market for anywhere near this. They're more like a $400 item plus. And yeah, so if you decide to go ahead and do that, one or more of the suggestions, I believe you get some more money back. But and then he comes back. Sorry, he does come back and does a second blower door test if you decide to do sealing, air sealing or project.
Okay. And if folks are interested in doing this, can you?
As I said, I'm totally unprepared. I will make sure I have a full report next month.
Okay, great.
A full report will be how to go ahead and do this.
Very good.
And I'll show you what my report said.
You're always great about sharing with us, even when it doesn't look so good, right? All of your energy bills. Okay, that's fabulous. Thank you. Okay. All right, anybody have anything else? Okay. Then we'll move on to our work group reports and discussion. And the first work group is our climate protection work group that has been working on the greenhouse gas action plan. And that's Josh, and we've gotten a bunch of volunteers from the EAC to help with the drafting of this plan. You want to kind of give us an update on where things stand and what we've got?
Absolutely, and all of the members of the EAC have volunteered to help with this, and I appreciate that immensely. I was hoping to be able to distribute a draft action plan to the group tonight, but there's a few key sections that are not quite finished yet, or at least not quite part of this report yet. And I was also unable to make copies physically, so it'll wait till probably a day or two, and I'll be distributing it to the members by email. It'll be an electronic copy. But what I wanted to do tonight was to go over what has been done in terms of just briefly summarizing the sections we think are at least preliminarily completed, which sections are missing, and a few initial proposals that I have to combine some sections together into an action item, a single action item, and a few that I propose to delete.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so the first one is creating a Radnor Municipal Green Team. And that section is complete, and I don't have any suggestions about that item. You want me to say anything else about these items, or just sort of briefly go over the sections and say what's been done? And
I think that's probably fine. I actually did that section. I know one of the things that I had a hard time with was just trying to quantify what greenhouse gas reduction will get at that. We clearly will if steps are undertaken, but we're not going to be able to quantify it until they form the team and then they start taking actions. And I don't know, there may be other sections like that, but that'll be something, we get the substance of what the action item is, and then we'll have to do our best with estimates on what the greenhouse gas and energy impacts will be.
Let me just quick make a comment about that. Because the green team, a Radnor Municipal Green Team will be a selection of key personnel, stakeholders, I guess, who can meet regularly to coordinate policies and priorities, purchasing decisions, et cetera. So while they are in a very important part of our plan, what I would suggest is that maybe the greenhouse gas emissions be attributable to those particular projects that they end up pursuing. So while we say, if we were to say, okay, the annual greenhouse gas emissions from this particular item are 0, it sounds bad, but it's really not bad. It's in that they're facilitating other items.
Right, and I think we've said in the past that this is going to be an evolving document. So we'll make an action plan, but it will evolve over time. And so as they come up with project ideas, then they can be added on, and then those greenhouse gases accounted for. Okay.
Yeah, and that applies to the second item as well, item number 2, which is a self-funding green projects budget or account. This would be a way to fund new green projects. And the funding for this account could possibly come from the savings that are generated from other projects, where it becomes a self-funding, self-perpetuating account to help us pursue different projects. So wherein this doesn't necessarily save any greenhouse gas emissions, the projects that it helps kick off will save energy. The third, fourth, and fifth.
Josh, what's the status,
Sorry.
what's the status of the second item?
In terms of the write-up of the item?
Yeah.
It is fairly basic right now. It hasn't really been evaluated or explored. So this is one of those items I would like to see have a little bit more meat to it before we include it in a draft.
So do you need a volunteer to do that, or are you going to
Yeah, I would like a
tackle
volunteer
that?
to do that, actually, yeah.
Okay. All right. Tell you what, let's keep a list of the things
Sure.
that you need volunteers for, and then when you circulate this by email, then we can tick those off and get people to volunteer. We'll have the whole list.
Great.
Okay.
Items 3, 4, and 5 have to do with streetlights, and I'm going to propose that we combine them together into a single streetlight item. The streetlight, the idea behind streetlights is that the equipment that we have now operating in the township is of older technologies. There are new technologies that will enable reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and they vary a little bit. So it's not just the type of bulb that you put into the fixture, but it's also has to do with the equipment that controls when they come on and off, and keeping an accurate track of what kind of technology you have installed and where. So instead of breaking that all out and making it more complicated than it has to, I'd like to propose to put it all into a single greenhouse or streetlight item.
Okay. Makes
Okay.
sense. And some of those things are already done, so those will be accounted for, the things that have been completed already with things that have yet to be done.
Yeah,
right?
in street lights, i.e. the things that are lighting up your sidewalks and your streets, I'm not sure how much improvement we've
really?
made since 2005, if any. The traffic signals we have, but street lights are a little different. So
Okay.
the street light section is fairly well researched. We have some numbers to slide into all of our greenhouse gas emissions and our costs and our savings. So I'm comfortable that we can move ahead with streetlights in a draft format.
Okay, good.
Traffic signals is number 6. Now this is a project where the township has made some some significant progress since 2005. We have some information about the progress that's been made since 2005. We also have information about a new project that the township will be undertaking to further improve the traffic signals. After that subsequent project is completed, there might not be a whole lot more to do in traffic signals. So, as far as our write-up, I think it's pretty well researched. We still need to put some numbers in to our the plan to show our greenhouse gas emission estimate and our costs and benefits. Some of that stuff will be historical savings, and some will be projected savings, depending on which project we're talking about. But I'd like to see in the next couple of days that we can put some numbers to that. And I think, Ann, I think you had this one. Is this yours?
Right, yes, I was working.
This yours? Okay. So I can talk to you afterwards about some of the information I have on the historical part of it. If you might have the same stuff.
And is this also one of the grant that the township recently received? Okay. So I think Melissa had provided us with the application that she submitted. So I haven't looked at it, but she may have some numbers in there as to what the estimates are on greenhouse gases.
I don't think I have that.
Okay.
Did you share it with me?
I don't know, but I'll
If you
check.
could, yeah, send it
Okay.
again, that would help.
Okay, number 7 is the improving our households' recycling rate. And that is, Dan, is that yours? Recycling?
No, I
No,
had the
you had-
yard waste
you had
on
yard
number
waste.
8. Yeah.
So 7, I believe, I'm sorry, I have the list right here. 7, I believe, was Sloan. And I know he had some progress on that, but I don't think he is completed yet. So I'll be talking to Sloan to make sure I get that in the next couple days.
Okay.
Number 8 is yard waste recycling, and Dan did say that he finished it, but unfortunately he and I failed to coordinate to get it in here. But
Yeah.
how does it look?
It's good. I mean, I have just sort of the goals, I guess I would say, and possible tasks
Mhm.
to get to those goals. What I don't have, I tried to call the township and get a little information on what's been happening with the yard waste recycling. Like, are they tracking how many tons or cubic yards or whatever? And then I didn't take a shot yet at translating it into, CO2 reduction.
I think I can help you a lot with that, with both those items.
I looked at the Haverford plan. They had some sort of voodoo mathematics going on in there that I think
Mhm.
we could probably use. So.
Okay, yeah, and I have the data that Peggy Hagan provided as far as what they have recycled in terms of yard waste through the first half of this year, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So I can help you with that. And then
What's
it's
that
just
person's name?
Peggy Hagan.
Okay.
She's in charge of the recycling as well as other things in the township.
And she keeps records of all of this because the township gets grants from the state for recycling, so all of the data ought to be available.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll resend that email to you tonight or tomorrow morning, depending where I find it.
Okay. The 9th item is green power purchasing, and Robin Mann was responsible for this one. There's been a lot of research done on this, and we had a presentation, I believe, 2 months ago about green power, right? Or maybe less than 2 months ago. And so we need to take to do just a little bit more research on this section to figure out what the costs and savings and greenhouse gas reductions are. Rob and I had spoken just briefly right before the meeting, and her hope is that the township goes to a 100% green energy purchasing, which would mean you reduce all of your greenhouse gas emissions associated with your electricity purchase. However, we have been purchasing green power in the past, and I believe in 2005 we may even have been purchasing back then too. I haven't confirmed that. So we have some of the improvement will be negated by the fact that we've already been doing a little bit of it in the past. It's possible that we don't go all the way to 100%, you know, we might buy it from a 50% green supplier or something like that.
You know, when we were putting together the Radnor Green page, the frontal page to connect to all the environmental information, we tried to include in there all of the things that, you know, Radnor, pride points that Radnor, and I checked there after I saw your email, and I see that on that front page it talks about Radnor having purchased 20% green power, maybe it was like 2008, 2009. I looked for a reference to 2005 because I knew you had that comment, and I didn't see any reference to it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen,
Okay.
but
All right.
it was checking.
So we're close with green power. I think that we can wrap this section up within a day or two. Tree planting, that was Steve, I believe. And he's waiting for some for some emails back. I'm not sure from whom, whether it's the Shade Tree Commission or Public Works or what, but that section is not completed, and he's in charge of that. Building relamping is section 11. And I am going to propose that we combine items 11 and 12 together. Item 12 was lighting occupancy controls. So that includes like motion sensors, occupancy sensors, daylighting sensors, with the building relamping project. Because truthfully, if you were ever to hire a company to do the work, you'd probably do it all at the same time anyway. So, and Robin agreed with that as well. So she has done quite a bit of research on relamping or on a lighting project. We have some numbers to put into the description. What we are missing are the possible costs and savings, which are two important things to evaluate whether this belongs in our final draft. So I will work with Robin to make sure we get some numbers to put in there. Okay, now item 13 is about renting unused township building space to outside parties. And the idea behind this one was that if you have a space that's being fully heated and cooled, but not fully occupied, it's an inefficient way of operating a building, and the most efficient way to operate this building would be fully occupied. There hasn't been a whole lot of support for this one particular item, and not a whole lot of people are interested in it. And even some people have spoken up about the fact that this is really just a massaging of numbers rather than a true reduction in greenhouse gases. It's more like well, actually the bills for the meter on this building will actually increase if there's more people in here. So even though it makes sense to run a building at a higher occupancy and gain some income possibly from a rental, I'm going to propose that we table this item, just in that we have a lot of stuff to concentrate on, and maybe this isn't one of the most supported ones on the list.
Okay.
And it's up for discussion. I'm just proposing this. Anybody, any thoughts about that?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree. You're not going to be really able to get a number out of it in that you're reducing anything. As far as, you know, if we're going for each item to have some reduction in greenhouse gas, it just won't show that.
It also seems as if the forces that would lead the township to rent the space are more significant than any interest in greenhouse gas reduction. But they probably would like the income.
Well, if they do end up renting the space, we can take a second crack at
Adjust.
this.
Okay.
But right now, I'm going to propose we table that one.
Okay, makes sense.
Number 14 is recommissioning Radnor Township buildings. Okay, so that is Ann's item, and that one is fairly fully researched, and I think it's ready to go for our draft report. Recommissioning, by the way, has to do with testing the existing systems that were installed in the building or that exist in the building to make sure that they're operating as their manufacturer thinks that they should be operating. So that includes your HVAC systems, your control, if there's any control systems like lighting controls or building controls, make sure that they're actually working and that energy efficiency measures that were installed with the building are saving the type of energy that they're supposed to be saving. That's generally what I think of as recommissioning. Item 15 is the greening of the gasoline fleet. There's just some discussion right before the meeting about broadening this one item to include some of the diesel trucks that are in the fleet. Now, we weren't by any means thinking of excluding these diesel trucks, but we broke out the trash and recycling trucks as a different item. So I guess what we're proposing is to bring those into this one item, excuse me, and broaden it to include the rest of the gasoline or the diesel vehicles as well. So there's pickup trucks, there's maintenance style trucks that we would include. So this would become a much broader item called just the greening of the Radnor Township's vehicle fleet.
I agree with that. I think that makes good sense.
It is much different. The way you would approach possibly a administrative vehicle idea, like where you just say, well, this is what I think we should buy for our inspector or whatnot. Well, obviously, it's much different than the way you would research how you buy a trash truck, both in the cost of the vehicle and the potential technologies that are available. So we have a little bit of work to do to clean this section up and to add pieces to it. There's different people expected to input to this. So Ann, I believe, had done a good job on trying to quantify some of the items and put a description to the gasoline vehicles. I had attempted to put something together for the trash trucks. So I think there's one other thing we were going to add into there. Oh, I'm sorry, it's something we're going to delete. So I think we'll be able to put something together in the next couple days between Ann and I for this item. Item 17 has to do with the school bus fleet, and that is the greening of the school bus fleet or the hybridization of the school bus fleet. Skip was kind enough to provide some research into this. I took a crack at putting it into the format that is required for this report, and it was quite easy to tease out some of the information, both in what we had from Leo Burnaby at the school district and from what you provided to fill in the blanks here. I think it needs a closer look, but the section is complete. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop work on this now and then wait for everybody to take a look at the draft, see if they feel that this item belongs in the final report. And once we narrow down, we have a little bit more time to spend on which items are going to remain, we can boost this one up if necessary.
Just as a comment, in the course of doing this, it started out a little slow because my neighbor was on vacation, Brucey Rappaport, my way into the school board. And I think that at the school board level, they've only really, from what I can tell, tested one type of hybrid. And there undoubtedly are other hybrids. There's mild hybrids. There's hybrids where the motor shuts off when you're standing still for 20 seconds. And I don't know what type of hybrid this was. But the fascinating thing to me, and I've shared it with you in some emails, is the impact of using biodiesel fuel is huge. It's, for 64 vehicles, and I had to come up with a difficult formula, taking a report that was done by the Union of Concerned Scientists for vehicles that were age, the report was done in 2002. And there have been improvements in diesel technology, but we're talking about hundreds of tons of carbon dioxide that are being saved by using biodiesel. And the school district independently, because of cost constraints, has done tremendous changes in terms of the bus routes, stops, and are saving something like 15 to 18% fuel and cost versus prior years just by redoing the routes. So there's things that the hybrid bus thing is the tip of the iceberg, and they've probably saved more carbon than we have saved so far on the list in terms of what they've done in the last 4 years.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, the title of this section might very well be changed to something a little bit more broad in that you call it the greening of busing our kids. Because certainly we're familiar with the fact that rerouting has had such great impact, and I know that they reroute over the years, but certainly they rerouted since 2005. So there are improvements that we can include in this that don't involve the style bus you buy. Yeah, the diesel.
And you know what, maybe even to broaden it to the greening of transportation in the Radnor Township School District, because I think one of the emails that I saw going back and forth, there was a comment by, I think, Leo Burnaby about how there could be even greater reductions if parents weren't driving their kids to school but putting them on the bus. So we might want to consider having some type of a recommendation about that in there as well, perhaps.
That's the personal choice thing is a different issue. I mean, because certainly it's sort of like not watering your lawn and things like that during a drought. By the same token, tweaking the routes hopefully does not result in an increase in personal drop-off. And I don't know if they've seen, it'd be good to find out how the ridership profile or number has changed after they've done these efficiency adjustments to the routes. But the biodiesel thing, it could translate over onto the township trash trucks. I mean, unless they already participate in some other way. The state provides, in the first year, it was a $40,000 grant to support the use of biodiesel fuel by the district, the school district. Why couldn't the trash trucks use biodiesel? As I say, it's sort of the tip of the iceberg. It surprised me how much was already going on in a positive way. I think natural gas would be another thing that should be looked at right now too, for some of the vehicles.
Interestingly, just on that biodiesel note, and I'm not a biodiesel expert in any way. I guess the way I was thinking about it previously was that the amount of carbon that's coming out of a tailpipe from a biodiesel truck and a regular diesel truck is almost exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Just coming out of the tailpipe, I believe it is. But if you look at it in a life cycle aspect, the biodiesel is pulling carbon from the atmosphere to create that carbon source. So it's a if you look at it in a broad sense, it's I think 80% reduction in total life cycle emissions.
It's also source material. You know, the diesel fuel comes from Libya someday again, but the oil might come from 10 McDonald's. And they might be a lot closer than Libya. So even though there's a cost to process the fuel, you're much closer downstream to your fuel source with biodiesel. And that is an intangible, but I brought some additional material to share with you after the meeting too.
Yeah, now that's not just recycled oil, right? That's also includes bio fuels, like fuels created from biosources.
It's probably, substantially used cooking oil, but there's a lot of that. And there may be others, byproducts of manufacturing or food processing that can be changed into that as well.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really know much about the topic, but it is interesting. And the numbers that the Union for Concerned Scientists were using were shocking. 80% reduction compared to a typical diesel. I was amazed. So yeah, it might serve the township well and the greening of their fleet. Put that as one of the possible ideas. Okay, so moving along to item 18, that was a vehicle driving efficiency training. And the idea behind that item is that if people who use our vehicles are trained on how to properly or on how to get a better mileage out of the vehicle, that you can achieve some amazing improvements in efficiency. I myself, when fuel prices first spiked in 2007, I did I think they called it hypermiling, but I got a 20% boost in efficiency just by driving differently. We've talked to several people in the township about that idea. It's already in an unofficial way being trained. There wasn't a whole lot of support for an official training plan or any kind of bonus plan where if the person who saved the most mileage or who improved their mileage the best would get a certain bonus. So I was going to suggest that we combine this with the greening of the fleet section, or we table it. What's your thoughts?
I'm not sure when. I know, we've been working on this greenhouse gas action plan, just gathering information and such for a while. So I'm not sure, what the time frame was that you got the feedback.
About a year ago.
About a year ago, and there's been a huge turnover. So I wonder whether it's worth keeping it in there, because I think one of our, plans was we get this all drafted, all prepared, and we try to run it by the township staff for any feedback before we send it off to the Board of Commissioners for consideration. So I wonder if it's worth leaving it in there, see if the people that are, sort of in charge of things now, how they feel about it. And if they really think that there's good reasons not to have it in there, then maybe we consider that and make a decision then.
Yeah, sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
Okay, item 20 are programmable thermostats. That is a building energy improvement idea, and I'm going to propose that we just combine that with item 14, which is recommissioned buildings. It is possible that certain buildings were not installed with programmable thermostats, but it's a small item to slide into something else that has to do with building energy. So no sense in cluttering up our report with a small thing like programmable thermostats.
Josh, did you say something about 19? I missed it. If you did.
No, I meant, what I meant is that, oh, I'm sorry, did I skip the whole section 19? I'll come back to that. Sorry about that. So just to summarize, item 20 I propose combining with item 14. Item 19 is the implementation of energy efficient IT practices. So that's not what you have over there, and so I'll say it again slowly. It's the implementation of energy efficient information technology practices, IT practices. So originally this one had started off as a simple nighttime computer shutdown software program where buildings such as this one that have a lot of computers and monitors operating it, they can automatically be shut down or ensure that they are shut down every evening so that you save the energy for computers running all night. And Steve had the idea of broadening this a bit, where instead of just looking to shutting these computers down at night, he wanted to broaden it to include possible use of different technologies to both access the data that the township uses to store the data. Some of the ideas include technologies called, like, you might have heard cloud computing thrown out there recently, or thin client technology, where the device that you use on your desk isn't necessarily a big PC with a monitor. It doesn't need all that computing power because the computing power is stored somewhere else, either on site or outsourced completely to somewhere else. Brenda and I thought it was a really good idea, especially in light of the fact that there are some complications with computer nighttime shutdown software as this building is being operated right now in terms of how their computers, or how the data is being backed up every night. So it had some complications, and so I think it's a great idea, and we have some of the write-up is finished. Some of the estimated cost savings, greenhouse gas savings and whatnot, are still blank. And I'm not sure if there's case studies out there that can help us understand what the potential savings are. Like, I could talk to Steve to see if he knows any more about it.
Okay.
So this item is interesting, and in the next 2 days, I'm not sure if we'll have anything to plug into this, but if we can, we will. All right, two more left, or three more, I guess. Number 21 is a green procurement policy. And we have a decent write-up for this. We have some difficulty, though, quantifying what some of the numbers are going to look like for this particular item. So as of right now, I would say it's enough to put into our draft, but if we're going to include it in our final, some people might want to know a little bit more. Was this yours, Brenda?
It was. Mm-hmm.
Some people might want to know a little bit more about what kind of savings we can expect. So maybe there's some more research we can do, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think in the Haverford plan, they have something similar to that. And I think that they're directing purchase of Energy Star technologies, computers, or wherever you may need something, some kind of equipment that has an Energy Star rating. And so from there, decided that it could compute to, a certain percentage in energy savings. So maybe we need to just kind of take a look at that, and we can use some of those estimates. It's hard to give a firm estimate, because if it's a green procurement policy, it's really going to depend upon what it is you're purchasing as to how much energy you're saving.
Yeah.
But if today you buy, a regular computer, and in a year from now you buy Energy Star, and if the estimated, say you get a third energy savings associated with that, then you can compute those greenhouse gas estimates. So maybe we just look a little bit further at Energy Star, for example, and see what they're citing as the differences between generally Energy Star equipment and regular non-Energy Star equipment.
Yeah.
And go from there.
This item originally was efficient equipment purchasing policy, but we broadened it to green. I think Robin had the idea that possibly local sourced, reduction in packaging,
Right.
or some other ideas that could be slid into this. We also broke out like lighting into a different project, so purchasing of like light bulbs and whatnot is part of a different one here. So
Yeah.
really this, in terms of equipment, it's computers. There's not a whole lot of refrigerators.
Computers, right, faxes,
Yeah.
copiers.
Electronics.
Yeah, electronics, exactly.
Well, we can leave this as is. I think that's probably the best thing to do. I was going to suggest maybe we consider combining with something else, but as of right now, I can't remember what I was going to suggest. So I'm going to say we leave it. And,
Leave it. And maybe we can go back to Haverford and see.
Take a
I
crack.
think we'll look at Haverford, and we'll look at Energy Star, see if we can come up with some numbers associated with it.
Okay, so that one's
Okay.
good for the report, for the draft as is.
Okay.
Number 22 is a sustainable parks policy. And
That's me.
That's one of the ones that
And
I-
again, I've got an outline, I'll get to you.
Great.
Again, it's kind of thin on numbers.
Mhm.
I think it was the Haverford plan, like, for example, the mowing, if they reduce mowing. I think Haverford plan made an assumption that if we reduce mowing by 5 or 10%, we'll save, we'll reduce the greenhouse gas this much. So I'd like to try and get some contacts at the township to, maybe
help us quantify
get a little
that.
bit better idea of, they're doing some things. I think you told me they've reduced some mowing as much as a cost savings as an environmental measure. They're also using organic fertilizers, I understand, on the athletic fields instead of chemicals. So they're definitely already, made some strides there.
Mm.
But I like it when the report sort of talks also about what we've done so far, rather than just, here's where we should go.
We
I think
do
it sort of adds some, history to it.
As an aside, we do have some data on how much gasoline they used in their mowers in 2005.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it'd be,
That might
those
be
kind of
useful.
things are useful.
Yeah.
And to capture them now while you can for the future.
Mhm. All right, so this will be ready in a couple days, so
Yeah.
that'll be good. I say a couple days. I'm gonna suggest we give me a week.
Okay.
When the power comes back on after this weekend.
Yeah, right.
Good point.
Lastly is the Willows Mansion Cottage. Yes, the Willows Cottage Energy Efficiency Project. Now
So
this
not the mansion, but the
not the
cottage.
mansion. Yeah, it's the cottage that is a quarter mile from the mansion. This is a project that was already completed. It was an impressive efficiency improvement project to the cottage. It was mostly, I believe, funded by a grant project from Pennsylvania. So I was in touch with Mark Janisek, who is a friend of the Willows, and he's also the person who put the application into the state for the grant. And I believe the application has all this information that we need in terms of filling the numbers in. So I'll have that within a week. I'm sure Mark has most of that at his fingertips.
And I think we have a copy of that. Melissa sent it to us, so
Oh,
if I
great.
haven't, you know what, I'll take those 2 applications. I'll send to you and to Ann again if I haven't sent them
Okay.
already. I'll just make sure you have them.
So that is those are the items in the report. We had proposed to, on the first page, briefly summarize the entire scope of our greenhouse gas reduction project, or not project, but well,
Action plan?
not the action plan, the entire thing as a whole, the inventory, the action plan, we're going to sort of summarize where we are in this process. And I think we can probably pull most of that from our other report. Probably, it's already been done.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
And then just add a little bit, I'm envisioning maybe a few paragraphs, like a broad summary of what we're trying to do here.
In
You
the
know, a
action
lot of
plan.
it is energy efficiency, which leads to reduced costs. You've got cost savings and also has the benefit of reduced greenhouse gas emissions. So maybe broad brush, we've got 20 separate individual items, but I think they probably can be classified into maybe 3 broad brush topics of how we're approaching things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I do need a volunteer to do that, because that hasn't been drafted yet. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about was how we define whether a project is a short-term project, a medium-term, or a long-term project. Brenda and I had thought that a short-term project is certainly something that you can complete in 1 year, or possibly even 2 years. And a medium project would be that 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 year kind of range, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then a long-term would be longer than that, but no longer than what we hope to have, when we hope to have all these things implemented by. So if we hope that this is going to be a 10-year plan, it's going to take us 10 years to get everything fully implemented, then the longest term that we should have is 10 years. If we think that something that's really expensive, that is like a bus replacement plan, that's going to take longer than 10 years for some reason. If a bus life is longer than 10 years, I don't know that, but then 15 maybe is where our end should be.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably talk about that over email or something like that.
Sounds good.
Okay? That's where we're
Great.
at.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of the work that you're putting into that, Josh. Great job.
Thanks.
Okay, next work group is sustainability, and we have several items under that, just to really report out. First item is the electric vehicle charging station pilot project. Just to give you folks an update, I spoke to Jake Harless at Community Energy last week, and he said that they're making good progress on that, as we said at the last meeting, they've identified a location for the charging station in Wayne near the senior center. They had an installation contractor out to view the site, and Community Energy is in the process of negotiating the hosting agreement with the township solicitor. Jay said that he thinks they may finalize it within a week or 2 perhaps. And he said he's hoping to have the charging station installed within a few months, so maybe by the end of October, if everything goes according to plan. So that would be great to move that along. And that update item actually takes us into the next one, which is sustainability series. We had a couple of great workshops this summer, June and July, one focusing on water conservation watersheds, the other on green energy at home. And for anybody that may have missed them, the videos of those particular programs are posted on the Radnor website, so you can click on there and watch them. They provided lots of useful information, and we were very happy to host the Pennsylvania Resources Council and Delaware County Conservation District for those programs. So now we need to start thinking about what next topics will be for our sustainability series, and I've been kicking around the idea of the next one being focusing on electric vehicles. So I've reached out to the League of Women Voters and the Radnor Conservancy on this. Those folks have actually been out of town, so hoping to get with them in the next couple of weeks. But my thinking is, if we've got the electric vehicle charging station being installed, say by the end of October, that it would be great for us to have a program on electric vehicles. We can sort of talk about the charging station. We can talk about what kind of cars are available, how they work, what they do. Perhaps also talk about how the the charging station infrastructure works with the electric grid, a little bit beyond just I'm driving the car, but really big picture issues. And I had some conversation with Jay Carlos at Community Energy about it. He was very excited, wanted to help work on it. He has even been trying to reach out. He knows somebody at PJM, the grid, invited him to perhaps participate once we get this off the ground. I think Sloan has been talking to there's an electric vehicle club, maybe in Plymouth Meeting or Valley Forge or something, and someone there who has an electric vehicle, and it's powered with electricity generated by solar panels, something like that. So he thought that that person might be interested in coming. So really to have a great session that lets people know about electric vehicles, and then perhaps we generate interest in folks using the charging station. So that's where we're going. If anybody's interested in helping with that, let me know. Sloan is already working to help get it organized, but always happy to have additional hands. And then obviously, once we get that, we're always looking for future ideas. So, anytime anyone has an idea, just shoot me an email and we can kind of get it on the list for the future.
We're thinking about sort of limiting the scope of the discussion to this type of vehicles that you plug in,
Yes.
as opposed
Right.
to like a vehicle that would be a hybrid electric that has a gasoline engine, like a Prius. You can't. Some Priuses you can't plug in.
Yeah, actually when I first started thinking about this topic idea, I thought, well, maybe we should cover all types of vehicles that, hybrids and things like that. And then I thought, well, we really have the charging station, or we will have the charging station now, and I don't think a lot of people really have a sense as to, okay, well, what kind of car would I have to use that charging station? How would it work? What's the big picture? So then I thought, well, maybe it's best that we focus on that.
Limited to those vehicles that can be physically plugged in.
Yeah.
I think it's a great
Right,
idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe if we're able to, talk to a dealer, maybe even have a car available for people to test drive, like have them come a little bit early before the program, and then people, if they're interested in checking it out, thought, oh, that might be nice. So kind of trying to see what we can put together on that. Okay. Next item, we have WaterSense Partnership Tip of the Month, but Sloan is not here, and he typically provides those, so we're going to have to maybe ask him to bring 2 next month. Okay. And then I wanted to give you an update on Sulpizio Gym Solar. I think at our last meeting, I had indicated that Commissioner Nagel had reached out to us regarding the condition of the Sulpizio Gym roof, in very bad condition, trying to figure out ways to generate funds to perhaps get some repairs done, thinking about whether there would be some option for solar on that roof, and the energy savings might be enough to address the issues associated with the roof. So we've put the township in contact with a solar developer who is actually, parent company is a roofing company. They're talking with them, and we'll see where it goes from there, but at least it's a start. So, okay. The next work group is Community Environmental Awareness. Josh, do you have anything on that?
No, I don't have anything new for that.
Okay. All right. Great. Does anybody else have anything related to work groups before we move into liaison reports? No? Okay. Skip, do you have any liaison report for tonight?
Well, for the first time in my tenure on the Planning Commission, we're going to have 2 meetings in September, because there are 2 major projects in 2 different neighborhoods. Well, the longer length meeting will undoubtedly be Cabrini and Eastern. Both have major projects planned, and we're going to keep 1 meeting just for that. I think that'll be the first meeting. Second meeting is back to the Luella Court apartment development, and Rite Aid is coming back up. So it's just unusual that we're going to have that much activity. And I think we're also going to look at a bed and breakfast first run out of statute or ordinance on that as well.
Okay.
So there's lots of activity. It's still institutional more than regular commercial, but maybe it's a sign of a recovering economy in spite of what people think.
That would be great. Very good. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is old business. Is there any other old business that we haven't already covered? No? Any new business anyone wants to bring up? No? Okay. Very good. Next month, the September meeting, I actually will not be here because I'll be attending the Green Building Celebration, the DVGBC thing that I keep announcing. I'm going to be there because I'm on their board of directors, but you will be in Josh's capable hands. He'll run the meeting and he'll give an update on home energy auditing. So I will miss seeing you all, but then I'll be back in October. So I think that's it. We're all set. Unless there's any public comment. Okay. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.